There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Weekly Coop. I have a special guest today. We're going to talk about conscious money and how money flows, how to keep track of it, some experiences of, surrounding yourself with the right people. And I'll let you take it away. So, state your name, occupation, kind of what you do, where you're from, all that jazz. Fun fact about yourself, maybe. Go for it.
I don't know if I have fun facts. Okay, my my name is Shena White, and I am a fractional CFO and money coach. And people say, okay, what the heck is a fractional CFO? So big corporations have chief financial officers, right? People who tell them what to do with their money. But small companies can't afford that sort of human. So I do that for multiple companies so that it is affordable for small corporations and small companies to have the same sort of backup in their financial sector as a big company.
Okay,
Um,
cool. I was actually going to ask you, what is a fractional CFO? I've heard fractional CMOs with some
mhm.
people that I've worked with.
Yeah.
Actually, my current business coach now, she's a fractional CMO as well for small businesses and companies. So with being fractional, so are
hmm
you just kind of asking for, like very small equity in these companies, or how does that, I guess, because, there might be some people that watch this show or listen to this episode and they get an idea of, oh, well, I have a great expertise in, operations or marketing,
hmm
where they could be a C suite, but, maybe that commitment isn't there, but they could still provide a lot of value by being a fractional, C suite executive for a smaller business. Like when you go into those negotiations, is it more equity based, or is there some sort of contract where you get paid out in a certain time frame, or how does that
hmm
work?
So I generally do it via retainer.
Okay.
Um, so I have a couple different programs, and so I have a group program that is just a monthly fee, and then I have, and that's for like really like 250,000 to $2 million companies, and then I have my one-on-one mid-tier program that's for like 2 to 10 million, maybe 15 million, and then for larger companies where we're getting into the 10 to 25 million, I have a program, especially for people who are getting ready to want to sell their business in 3 to 5 years, where I get a retainer, but and then I get equity, but the retainer is taken out of the equity at the end. So basically, if they do everything I tell them to do and we get the valuation at the end, then they just pay me the percentage of equity difference from the value when we start to the value when we end. And if they don't do what I tell them, then I get my retainer.
Yeah. So when you talk about retainer,
hmm
so can you elaborate on retainer by chance?
So that's just a monthly set fee um, that is every month. And it is for up to a certain amount of services. So if they want
Okay.
extra stuff above and beyond that, like say, for instance, um, part of our contract isn't to help with funding, but all of a sudden they want me to help them get everything together for SBA funding, then
Mm-hmm.
that would be an additional service for just that month.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, that's really cool. I
Yeah.
think we're going to shift towards that type of economy, I think, in the very short term and long
hmm
term futures, where you're going to have people that have a lot of expertises that,
hmm
they could be in a leadership position, but maybe they want to expand to different industries and different businesses and different companies, which I think is more than, I don't know. It keeps it for, I don't know about you, but just from what I'm feeling here, it could be more enticing just to keep it fresh, keep it loose. Like you're working in different, you got your hand in different things. So it just kind of makes your days not kind of all blend together,
Yeah.
where it feels like it's a nice change of pace every now and then than just doing the same monotonous, trying to stay in one industry.
Yeah, I mean, and I like the fact that I get to help so many people. Like right now, between all of my clients, I probably have around 20 ish.
Okay.
And so then, I'm helping more people. And that's why I just am launching this group program so I can help even more people because I like helping people. And
Yeah.
so that's what I'm all about. And so it's like the more people I can help, the better.
Hmm. Yeah, helping people. I mean, I think that's what I truly believe in purpose. That's why I have this show and I bring on people is to talk about their purpose, and it's different for everyone. It's not necessarily just to just be in corporate for the rest of their
Mhm.
life, collect a paycheck, retire, and that's it. I think we were more geared to service for others, helping others on a genuine level. So that's really cool. And I see the Denver Broncos are behind you. So we're a Denver Broncos fan. Are you currently in Denver?
I am in Denver. I am originally from Seattle, but after graduating from the University of Washington, I moved here to Denver. I still live in Denver, and I am a season ticket holder for the Denver Broncos. I go to pretty much every game, and the ones I don't go to, I'm watching on TV. And then I probably watch way too much football during the season,
I do too. It's okay. I
but
played football in college. I get it.
well, and I'm very cutthroat on fantasy and on my fantasy
Oh,
team.
okay.
So yeah, like I have to watch because I have to be able to see like who's emerging. I don't really like the players on my team. I don't. It sounds bad, but I don't really care about. They'll do what they do. But
Yeah,
I
yeah, of
pay
course.
attention more to who's emerging and who I can maybe pick up. Yeah, that's
Who
what
do
I'm
you think's
about.
your starting quarterback week one?
Well, we haven't done our draft yet, so I don't know.
Oh, who's going to be the Broncos starting quarterback?
Oh, who's gonna be the Broncos?
Who do you
Oh, Bo
think?
Nix. Come
Think
on,
it's going
let's
to be
be
Bo?
real.
I'm a
Yeah,
Bo Nix fan. I think so too. He's got it.
he was handpicked by Sean Payton. He's the dude. I don't know why they got Zach Wilson. I really don't. That seems like a
It's
waste.
just good to have a decent backup. I think Zach Wilson will be a better player under Sean Payton than he was for the New York Jets, just because the Jets are the New York Jets. Granted, way better talent from a perspective of like receiver and defense,
Hmm.
but I do think under Sean Payton, he's got a shot to if he has to go in
Hmm.
behind Bo Nix, I think he'll make some significant impact. Are you a Seahawks fan then, since you grew up in Seattle?
Yeah, I used to be a Seahawks season ticket holder, so I am
Oh, what a
a
beautiful
I'm
stadium.
a reformed Seahawks fan.
I've been to two Seahawks games. Amazing time. I mean, I'll never forget it. It was honestly the two best football games I've been to. One of them was a blowout, and one of them was an overtime loss. And I still had the best time with the best. I think they are truly one of the best fans in football. If I'm going to be honest, they're rowdy, and I watch football too. I think football is well. I played in college, so obviously it means a lot to me. But I think
Hmm.
football and business and just sports and business really coincide with one another.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I kind of want your so obviously you're a big football fan.
Hmm.
Like, what is football in terms of business? How do those two things coincide with each other?
So many ways. I literally so I watch too much football during the season, and then on Tuesdays I go live in my Facebook group, and I call it Tuesday morning quarterbacking, and I talk about all the things you could learn from each game. I give it like something I learned from each game that you can utilize in business.
Nice. Okay.
So
Yeah. I
I I do
yeah, I
it.
definitely think that's a good bridge, especially on a Tuesday since I mean, you got football literally from Thursday to like Monday, just
Mm-hmm.
every day straight. So that
Yep.
Tuesday Wednesday window is a pretty nice window to
Yes.
go live and talk about. Yeah, just like the concepts of being able to quarterback your business and being able to lead a team, because in business, eventually you're going to have to collaborate with other people, or you're going to have employees that work under you,
Yeah.
and you're going to have to show that leadership. And I think the quarterback is one of the best positions to look at and emulate in sports because the quarterback has to know play calls, quarterback has to know the receiver's route, blocking scheme, where the if the running back's going out to pass, or if the running back is going to stay and block as an extra helper. Same with the tight end, and then you got to read the defense. You got to read defensive front. You got to read defensive coverage. The quarterback has to read everything, offense and defense. So you have to be you have to be on your A game, and you really got to prep for games, and you really got to study and go and master your craft. So I wholeheartedly agree. I think football and business concepts really do mesh
Yeah.
together.
Well, and then I talk a lot too about, playing defense too, because so many people focus on offense, right? They're
Hmm.
focused so hard on sales and production and sales and production and that's when they end up getting on this hamster wheel of sales
Hmm.
and production, but they're never actually making money because they're just spending, their overhead is bloating, their cost of goods sold is going out of control. And so you have to also play defense, right? You
Mm.
have to control your costs, you have to control your labor, you have to do all these other things. So because it's not just one side of the ball, right? No matter how good you are at offense, you also have to play defense.
100%. I played strong safety in college, and I had to I kind of called myself the quarterback of the defense because I had to know the play call for the
Hmm.
defensive side, and then I had to know the defensive front, what we were running. I had to know what the linebackers were doing in terms of blitz or coverage, and then I had to know what pass coverage we were in, and then if it's a lot on the fly for defense, so it's still a lot of prep work, but defense you have to improvise. So you're obviously reading run versus pass. So when there's a run and you're watching a run play commence, you
Hmm.
have to figure out, where am I filling space? Because people don't realize, yes, you do go to the ball carrier or the receiver and you have to make the tackle, like if you're there. But part of the thing is you have to fill a gap that's not filled. Like you're
Yeah.
assigned to a certain gap. So, linebackers go to A gap or B gap, whether the line is covering that gap or not. And then depending on where the strong safety shifts, we call it the alley. So it's like in between the sideline where the cornerback is, and then like where that outside linebacker is, it's called the alleyway. So it's that open space that I have to fill and
Yeah.
hopefully make that tackle. But obviously it changes, depending on where the running back goes. And then if it's a pass coverage, depending on the certain coverage, I'm covering either a person or I'm covering a space. And that's where the prep work comes in. You have to understand, cover one, I'm going man. Cover three, I'm covering the flat space, which in football terms, flat is between the sideline and kind of where the offensive line are. It's like a little gap space
Hmm.
that running backs usually go to. um, and then cover two, I'm covering deep half of the field, and then cover four, I'm covering a quarter of the field, deep quarter. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And then you talk about sales. So was sales part of your profession coming out of school and those sorts of things?
Yeah. So I went to school for biochemistry and medical anthropology. So um, I should have gone into science, but
That's
instead,
crazy.
yeah, but instead I went into corporate sales. I was just kind of done with school. I was supposed to go to medical school,
That's
and
fair.
by then I was just I was over it, and so I was like, whatever. And I just took. I had, I think, like 4 jobs in 6 months, and I finally fell into corporate sales. And at the time, it was a really good job. And we're talking, this is 2010. Like the landscape was bad for jobs in 2010.
I
It
was
was
going to
not
say, yeah,
great.
that was kind of like post,
Hmm.
market kind of crashing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to think, you know, in 2010 to get a pretty good sales job was good. So I just took it. And when I first started there, I was in inside sales and I was selling
Oh,
toilet paper.
oh, I
Yep.
could imagine.
So
I've done inside sales, but I did technology, so I was working for a reseller on government contracts. So definitely a way different experience. Very, lucrative somewhat. Although inside sales is it's a different animal for sure. So you're selling toilet paper though.
yep. So it's janitorial
Wow.
products. Yeah. So, and they gave me, oh, you're going to really love this. They gave me a list of thousands of clients that had fired the company and said, call these people and get them back.
Whoa. Talk
So it
about
wasn't,
backtracking.
yeah, it
That's
Oh, it was
crazy.
it wasn't even cold calling. It was like disaster calling because
Y-
these are people who'd already purchased from us in the past and didn't like us. So I had
Yeah.
people like threatening me. I had people hang up on me. I had people screaming at me. I mean, it was pretty
Mm.
wrecked.
Yeah.
Um, and so then I thought to myself, I was like, okay, how do I do this so that I don't want to, die every day because this is not fun. So I started calling people and telling them I was doing market research because we were
Okay.
trying to improve the company. I was like, we know you're a past customer, you're not with us anymore. We're trying to improve the company and I'm doing this market research. I just want to ask you like what did we do? How did we suck? And so then they would start telling me things. I'd be like, okay, what do you like about your new company? And they would tell me things. And then I'd be like, okay, what do you not like about your current company? And because by that time I already had them talking, they were opening up to me. And so then they would tell me, I'd be like, oh, and then I would do like the switch where I'd be like, oh, okay, well, did you know we actually already changed these three things you didn't like? And these three things you don't like about your new company, we fixed those too. So you should try us again.
Yeah.
And I ended up being the number one salesperson in my company that year, and I crushed my goals, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I have to ask just because, I think so. I worked in sales, I worked in
Hmm.
inside sales, I worked in outside sales. And, I really appreciated the experience. I didn't appreciate it at first because, I don't know, you're used to hearing no, or you're just like used to backlash, And honestly,
Yeah.
I got into sales before COVID and then during COVID and after COVID. And then they all have different periods of um, I just like unique difference in terms of sales before COVID was like it was different. Like I feel like it was easier to get people on the phone. I feel like it was like you were gonna have conversations. Then during COVID, it was still like somewhat easy, but people, I feel like there was a lot of tension and just those conversations were more difficult. And then after COVID, I just felt like it was so hard to get people on the phone after like COVID restrictions and those things were up. So like trying to call people was just different. It just felt like day and night. uh, I just had a whole different experience, and I was trying to
Hmm.
adapt, but more people were responding to LinkedIn messages and emails though, which I was like, I'm not going to complain about that. Like if I'm hooking people through email and LinkedIn messaging,
You're like,
I'm doing so,
woohoo!
yeah, I don't have to call you. I'm good with that. But what do you think sales, like in terms of relation to like owning your own business and being successful in business? Why is sales such an important skill set? I think everyone should have a sales job before becoming an entrepreneur.
Well, a couple things. So, as an entrepreneur, especially when you're first starting your business, you are the salesperson.
Hmm.
And you're not just selling a widget, you're selling yourself.
Yeah.
So, selling yourself is a million times harder than selling anything else because you have
Hmm.
so much head trash that you don't have. Like when I'm selling freaking toilet paper, if somebody hates the toilet paper, well, I'm sorry, we'll get you a different kind. But if I'm selling myself and somebody hates me, well, that's a totally different thing. So it's
Yeah.
so much harder. Um,
Hmm.
but also, I think that my theory is that every single job in the world is actually sales. People just don't want to believe it.
I agree.
Because if you have any sort of customer interaction at all or interaction with any other human in a way, that is sales.
Yeah.
You're selling yourself even or if you go to a performance review, what is that? That's you selling yourself to continue on in your position with your company. So I think that every single human should have better sales skills. And it is a skill.
Yeah.
People always like, oh, you're born with it. No, it is 100% a skill that you learn, that you hone, that you get better at. Everybody sucks at it to begin with. It sucks at
100%.
first, and then you
Yeah.
get used to it, and then you like it.
Yeah, and I think I really do want to hone in on the point where you say you're selling yourself, not a product or service. I think there is a lot of truth with that, just from the perspective of when you're going into, a call with someone,
Mhm.
and, it doesn't matter if you're like a fitness coach, if you're a financial coach, if you're anything in the holistic business, if you're anything, with yeah, just like anything that you're trying to sell yourself, you could have a really good product. Or even if you're like a coder or an engineer, like a software engineer of some sorts, you could be really, really talented at what you do. You could be one of the smartest people to walk into any space.
Mhm.
If you don't have that confidence and you don't have that way to uh, convince someone that you are great, it's not going to work. Like, you could have the next $1 million idea or $1 million concept. If you can't voice that, though, nobody's going to want to buy it. Like, even the worst, there are some, products or services that, they eventually did fail in the long term, but they had short term success because their message was just so on point. It was very aligned, it was very in tune, and they could voice it perfectly, and that's why the sales went crazy and people loved it. People loved, what the person I was selling it was doing, even if the product wasn't great. And then when, the product or service caught up with them, that's when obviously it fell flat on their face. But, those people had their success. Part of it's luck, but most of it
Mhm.
is because they crafted a beautiful message behind what they're doing. So I wholeheartedly agree. It's interesting that, like, you bounced around, from like a sales perspective. So you did sales. Where did you transition after that?
So after that's when I started my construction company with my now ex. So
Hmm.
we had had a child, and he was traveling a lot, and he didn't want to travel anymore. So then we were like, let's start a business. Actually, he was like, let's start a business. I was like, what? No, this sounds terrible. I want a paycheck. But he was like, no, we're starting a business. I'm like, okay, this is a terrible idea. And I actually really hated it for a long time. I was a very reluctant entrepreneur. And
Hmm.
when about 6 months after my daughter was born, so I'd be probably like 3.5 years later, um, we I actually got a job for 6 months, and because I was like, no, I'm done with this business, I'm gonna get a job. And I got another job in sales, um, and it was worse. So then I went back to my company. So, and I've been an entrepreneur ever since. I quit. I The last time I fired my boss, and I have not gotten another boss since.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, dating and business can be tricky. Uh,
I'm sure.
yeah, so like what, for those that have maybe thought about that, doing
Hmm.
business with their partner, some have succeeded, some have not succeeded. I guess, like, what would you recommend with those people that maybe are wanting to get into that facet of life together, um, in terms of not doing it just separately or just doing their
Hmm.
own thing and then just obviously dating? Do you have any recommendations for those people to try
Yeah.
to be
So
successful?
I've done it both ways. I've done
Hmm.
it unsuccessfully with a partner, aka we're divorced, and then I've done it successfully so far with a partner. We're engaged, and we have some companies together. We're actually in the middle of buying a business together. We do our podcast together.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing is communication, which is always, just really having being on the same page, like having a shared vision. I work with a lot of companies that are, husband and wife teams. And at the beginning, a lot of times they're fighting, and a lot of times it's because they don't have a shared vision for where they're going. So one
Okay.
person wants to go here, and the other person wants to go here. And if you guys are trying to go different directions, it's always going to be a tug of war. So
Hmm.
what I do is I try to get them on the same page and to that shared place of vision, because then you can be in the same boat rowing the same direction, right?
Okay.
And then it's a lot easier to figure out what the decisions are and how to make them as a team, because you're
Hmm.
making decisions with the thought of a shared future, of this same place you want to go. And then you can disagree and things like that. And I also like the way Elena Cardone and Grant Cardone, she talks a lot about this, that in the main 10x company, Cardone company, he is the boss. So if they disagree on something and she's like, no, I want this, and he's like, no, I want that, he wins always, because he always wins. But then at home, if they disagree, she always wins. So she has a place where she always wins, and he has a place where he always wins, and they have, because of the way that they've split it up in their strong suits. So like me and my fiance
Hmm.
with the same thing, with certain parts of our companies, like there's things where my thought supersedes his because that I'm in charge there, and there's things where his thought supersedes mine because he's in charge there. So I think just having that delineation really helps.
So do you work with couples?
I do a lot, not like as a
Okay.
therapist, but I have a lot of
Right.
clients that are couples. So
Yeah. No, because obviously, you do financial coaching and those
uh
sorts of
huh.
things. So when you were talking about like working with couples, I was like, oh, I didn't realize. But you do work with couples in your own
Mhm.
like business that
Oh, yeah.
you have. Okay.
Mhm.
And so with your financial coaching
Yep.
business, what exactly what is your like vision and your mission behind that, and like what are you doing for people? Obviously you're working with couples, so I'd love to hear your perspective on that too. But what's the mission and vision of that business?
Yeah. So after being, a contractor for so many years and really struggling for the first few years and stuff like that, my mission is to help 1,000 blue collar entrepreneurs to become millionaires with just their business, and then take money from their business and be able to invest that and grow their wealth. So have kind of like that generational wealth component.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And very fruitful, or like very fulfilling, I would say.
Yeah.
We definitely, I think blue collar workers deserve more education and more respect, for what they put out there, just because they're building so many things, that
Mhm.
that we honestly, some things we could not live without, without those blue collar businesses. So good
Well,
for you.
yeah.
So
I mean,
you want to
yeah.
make them millionaires.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yep.
amazing. That's
Millionaires through
amazing.
their business. And I mean, I think too, it's one of those things where so many accounting professionals, and I was talking to a potential client earlier, and I'm like, so many accounting professionals, it's like they thrive in people not knowing. It's like they want
Mm,
it to be complicated. And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, okay, but it's just math. It's not that complicated.
It's just math.
It really is. It really is just
No, it
math.
is. It is. You're right. Yeah,
But
for
I'm the
sure.
exact opposite. Like, I love showing my clients what their books and what their math in their
Hmm.
business is trying to tell them, and how they
Mm,
can utilize the information to not only survive but to thrive within their business, and
yeah.
how that information and that math can be so powerful in making decisions and growing and all these sorts of things. And so like I'm obsessed with helping people understand what the heck all these charts and spreadsheets and reports are actually telling you.
Yeah. Um, so to be clear,
Mhm.
your degree and your background was in science,
Uh-huh.
biology, uh,
Biochemistry, but yeah.
biochemistry. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And now you help people with their finances.
Yep.
So that, and then like you started. So where was the transition, or like what was the moment, I guess is what I want to ask you. Like you made this conscious decision to go from, obviously you didn't use your degree, which is okay, a lot of people do that, honestly, uh, but you transitioned into like a whole different sector with finance, because finance is like, it's such a very, I don't even know how to describe it. It's such it's like an expanded universe of its own, because there are so many sectors in
That is true.
finance.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, what moment got you into that?
So I had my concrete company, and it was about 3-ish years in. And I'm driving down the street to an appointment, and I'm listening to this radio show called The Troubleshooter, who I never really listened to because I didn't really like the guy. But that day, for some reason, I was on the radio, and he says the name of my accountant. And he says, if this guy is your accountant, it's a real bad day for you. And I literally almost ran off the freaking side of the road because that was my accountant. So he's telling me it's a bad day for me. I'm like, oh my God. Come to find out, my accountant, who had been doing all of our books, our payroll, all of our taxes, everything, had been taking money out of our account to pay taxes, but had been stealing it, had been embezzling it all, and had not been sending it to the IRS to pay our taxes.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And then all of our documentation, like he had all of it and it all got taken. So then the IRS is like breathing down my neck like, "Hey, you need to figure out how much you owe us and pay us." And I had nothing. I had to start over from scratch and reproduce years of records and documentation virtually overnight. And then, of course, this guy had come highly rated. It wasn't just me, it was 120 companies in Colorado. It was like $25 million. It was crazy. And so I didn't trust anyone. So I'm like, okay, I'm a smart girl. Like, I have a
Hmm.
degree, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
And so I just started doing it. I just learned and I started doing it on my own. And through learning, I realized how inefficiently I was running my business. And so I was able to not only figure out the whole IRS debacle, but I also took my business from 4% profit to 24% profit in that same year. And then I was able to scale from there. And then, friends started saying, okay, last year you couldn't buy food. Now you're going to the Bahamas. Like, tell me your secrets. And so I started helping people, and I just fell in love with helping people to do what I had done, and to understand so that they never had to be in the situation I was in.
Hmm. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. The yeah embezzlement. Whew.
It was so not cool. It was so not cool. It's the
Yeah.
worst.
How did you? Yeah. How did you recover from that? Like emotionally, you know, like that's hard.
I mean, at the time, I think I didn't have time to even be emotional
Hmm.
about it. And then later, it was one of those things where while you're in it, you can't even stop. And then by the time you can stop, you're out of it and you're just kind of like, whew, that sucked.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. It's just you got to keep chugging along. And so this person was doing it for, you said how many years? Was it 3 years?
So
Like
for me,
doing,
for 3 years, but
okay,
I mean, there was companies that he'd been doing it for like 15 years.
that's insane.
Yeah.
That's just, so did this person face any consequences for that?
Oh yeah, straight up, he's in jail.
Okay. That's okay. So the justice was served. Yeah,
Yeah,
taken from,
I honestly felt the worst for his wife though, because she lost everything, and I don't think she knew at all what was going on. And so,
right.
I felt really bad for her because she literally, like, she lost her home, she lost her husband, she lost all of her income. She didn't work, and because he was a skis bag. So I do still feel bad for her because I think she was the biggest victim in the whole thing, honestly.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's tough. You sometimes think you know someone, and unfortunately you don't. But you took that pain and you turned it into your purpose, which
Hmm.
is incredible. Um, so with your finance coaching, what falls under that umbrella? So like, do you do just budgeting? Do you do investing? Like, what do you encompass with your coaching with people?
So I have a bookkeeper on staff, so I do books, and
Okay.
then I do monthly, yearly, or monthly, quarterly, and yearly financial analysis. So I have a system that I use called Cash Flow Story, where we really can look at where everything is in the business. And there's 7 levers of cash. So you have your revenue, You have your pricing, you have your overhead, you have your cost of goods sold, you have your work in progress, your accounts payable, and your accounts receivable. So those are your 7 levers, your things you can kind of play around with when it comes to your cash. And in this system, it actually gives us from your own data the ability to manipulate those by percentages to create a cash flow and a profitability plan. So then we look at that quarterly and monthly, and kind of reevaluate the plan, and then we implement the plan. And then I also help with like processes and systems, and I mean anything, because finance touches everything. So I love efficiency and creating new efficiencies across the business, like taking estimates and pulling them through the rest of the business. So you like that estimate becomes a project budget, then becomes, the project P&L at the end, and we can see, projected versus actuals. And I can get really nerdy about it. So there's a
No, I
lot.
mean, no, and it's good that you go into the weeds because
Oh yeah.
finances you kind of have to. There's not
Hmm.
really a way around it. You kind of have to, unfortunately, do that tedious work in terms of like I need to eliminate this or I need to add this, and success can only get you so far if you don't grasp the financial tools that you need to use uh, in order to be successful in your business. And a lot of that is literally just looking at your line items in terms of what my budget is, how much I'm spending with expenses, and those expenses look a lot different. And then obviously your revenue is just your revenue. So it's like you can have all this revenue, but if you're expending way too much, you're in the red,
Hmm.
and
Oh
we
yeah.
don't want that. And that's what a lot of people I think don't understand is you can make $1 million in a year in revenue, but if your profit is only like even like 100K, like if your revenue is 1 million and you're only making 100K profit, like I mean it's, yeah, you're making 100K profit, good for you, but where is that 900K going in terms of expenses, and what do those look like? Sometimes it's just like investments in your business, whether it's like equipment or those types of things. um, or are you spending in a stupid way? That's where you're losing 900K, and it actually could get worse if you keep that trend going. So no, I
Yeah.
think the finite details are very important, and that's why understanding finances, it should be a universal thing. Like I think the school system, did you take finance classes in college?
No, actually,
Exactly.
I have a degree in biochemistry, but then I have
Right.
another one in medical anthropology and global health.
But you
So
didn't take one finance class because
no,
I'm trying to
not
make, so
one.
my point here
Nope.
is you're taking
Nada.
these classes and you don't have any financial literacy as a college student. Like
Well, I mean, I
that's
did, but I was different.
I mean that's fair. That's fair. But what I mean is like, you
Mhm.
can get like a degree in, the scientific field, or
Oh
you
yeah.
can go be a doctor, but you still like need to learn the basics of finance. Like you need to learn these terms, you need to learn these spreadsheets, you do need to learn these financial, you know, um, you just need to learn these financial terms because like as a, like if you're a doctor, even like you still have your own business, like chiropractor, you have your own business, dentist, you have your own business.
Yeah.
Even like in the healthcare field, like you have your own practice and your own business, and you don't learn a single business course like that. To
No,
me
they
is
don't.
crazy.
And honestly, and then a lot of business courses teach you how to be a cog in corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
They don't teach
Exactly.
you how to run a small business. It's so different. And I see a lot of people too, they're always like, "Oh, I want to scale. I want to scale. I want to grow. Oh, I want to, but that's so expensive. Growth is a cash like eating machine.
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, in order to grow, you need more people. Well, what do
Right.
you need to get more people? You need cash, right? Because you have to
Right.
pay them. Because you have to pay someone from day one, but they're not going to be cash flowing for probably 3 to 6 months, depending upon your business and your system.
Right.
That means you have to have 3 to 6 months of cash just waiting there to invest in them. And people want stuff to be like overnight. It just doesn't happen. It's like with a piece of equipment. You invest in that piece of equipment, you buy it, but it's not going to pay you back for a certain amount of time. So it's all about an investment strategy and then getting the return on that investment. Investing, getting the return, investing, getting the
Yeah.
return.
Well, it's crazy because like now you got, people that are like influencers, right? You got people
Oh
that do
yes.
content creation for a living, and it's like now they hire, you know, people or AI or, things to help navigate or, create the content for them. So that's kind of like an investment too, because now you're outsourcing anything
Mhm.
that you're outsourcing in your business. That's an investment, but you're right. You have to have cash on hand, which is why artificial intelligence, I think, is going to be a very interesting business acclamation for just individual business owners, like people
Mhm.
that want to run a business but don't necessarily want to pay, for even like I think even like virtual assistants or people that, social media managers. I think a lot of those positions now are going to get replaced by AI. So now it's like your investment is going to be like a monthly subscription to an AI resource. Not all of them, but
Mhm.
just for the sake of like content creators, just because I feel like that's
Yeah.
kind of the easiest examples to go by. Um, but yeah, it's interesting how like, how your P&L sheet and those things will look when like artificial intelligence takes off more and offers more different like products and services to kind of replace humans. I'm not saying humans are replaceable 100%, but I think there will be systems like that. So that
Yeah.
investment will make it interesting in terms of how much cash you do need to have on hand for outsourcing investment. Because
Oh
you're right,
yeah.
you do need 3 to 6 months.
Well, yeah, I mean, and no matter what, your investment, and also you need to give stuff time. I see people all the time, like I've had people like, "Oh, it's been 2 weeks. This isn't working." I was like, 2 weeks, dude. Like,
Right.
come on, like 2 weeks is not a big enough data sample, right? So I think that this is where actually being a scientist helps because
Yeah,
you actually science is a ton of math.
of
And it's
course.
all about data sets and it's all about trying things and it's all about, the
Yeah,
scientific
hypothesis.
method,
Right.
right? And
It's all about a
what
hypothesis.
yeah, and what is really great business ownership but testing a hypothesis. You
And
think that
and
this business is
sometimes,
going to be
yeah,
good.
like seriously, you're testing a hypothesis and you have no idea if it's going to work or not.
Yeah.
That's why it's called a hypothesis. You're
Uh-huh.
just
100%.
literally hypothetically speaking, if it works, it looks like this. If it doesn't work, it looks like this. And we're going to figure it out. We're just going to shit. Let's just get it going. So,
Yeah.
I actually like that analogy because I think science classes, yeah, helped me understand that a lot of it. I mean, you can take a calculated risk. Don't get me wrong. You can weigh the statistics and you can weigh the percentages. And
Mhm.
I mean, you have so many things now that just throw statistics at you for business concepts and like, oh, this business has like, this, I saw something about restaurants, the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
Like 50% of restaurants fail within a year, 80% of restaurants fail within 4 years. And it's like, okay, you have those stats. That's true. Um, but you can't necessarily get paralyzed by that because, okay, well, you could be the other 50%. You also could be the other 20%. It's just like, it's a hypothesis. If you love it a lot, then fucking go for it. You know what I mean?
I mean, and I always say to people like, okay, what's the worst case scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the worst case scenario is you fail, well, I mean, yeah, it might hurt your ego
Mm-hmm.
and it might cost you a lot of money, but she didn't die. You're gonna keep going, like it's okay.
Exactly.
Like, I've had
Yeah.
to start over a few times. Like, I'm a two-time domestic violence survivor. I've started over
Mm.
completely. Like, I went from being a millionaire to being on food stamps, and that sucked. That was pretty
Okay.
rough. But,
Yeah.
you can't let it stop you. The only way you really fail is if you quit. Because if you have
Mm.
these little failures, those just lead you to more certainty that the next path is probably the one you're supposed to be on.
Mm. Yeah. Great point. Also, thanks for sharing that vulnerable side of you. the listeners appreciate that. That is not easy. I'm really sorry that happened to you. And wow, kudos to you for still putting yourself out there, still working with men, and
Oh yeah.
still,
That's what
dating.
two humans did. That was their choices. That's not men. That's two individual humans.
That, yeah, I mean that the mindset is, I mean, your mindset's great. What do you attribute that to?
um I mean, I think a lot of it was a decision. And then also, I've had some really amazing mentors and coaches myself. Like
Okay.
my current mentor is awesome. But I also, um, when I was in a really dark place in my last marriage, and I found this woman online, and she was a successful single mom. And so I was like, man, and she really inspired me. I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I can do this. She's the successful single mother who, is very happy, and I'm like, maybe I don't have to be stuck here. And it was that little light of hope. And then I wrote down a vision of what I wanted, and I wrote down a vision of what I wanted for my life, but also what I wanted in a partner. And
Mm.
so now, many years later, actually had to write down a new vision for my life, at least, because I got all the stuff in my vision, and I got even the partner that was exactly what I wanted. So I always tell everyone, just like write down what you want. It's really powerful to actually write it down, and to just kind of put it into the universe, and have that, like, with the pen, not just in your brain, like physically writing it, to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's just like it is amazing what the human experience can entail, in terms of, yeah, being a millionaire, also DV and abuse, uh, also going to food stamps, and then coming back to that millionaire side. It really just goes to show that life is somewhat cyclical, and it's just
Mhm.
like you got to prepare yourself for where you want to go and when you're writing it down. And that's why, yeah, writing it down is so key. And I think that a lot of people say they want to be a millionaire, but then they don't understand. They don't even like, because a lot of people want to say they want to be a millionaire, but
Mhm.
it's not even like the work ethic at that point either. It's like, if I dropped $1 million into your lap, how would you respond? Because like some people don't have a regulated nervous system to handle that. Like if you had $1 million in your bank account, like it just showed up, like how's your nervous system going to respond? Like what are you going to do with that? Because a lot of people would, their nervous system would crash out, and then they would just, be paralyzed, and they would do something. Either they would do nothing at all because they'd be scared, or they would be reckless with it. So you
Well,
really
mostly
have
they'd be
to.
reckless.
What's that?
I said mostly they'd be reckless. I mean, that's what you
Yeah,
see, I think it's like the average lottery winner actually is in a worse financial position within 5 years.
I think you're right. It is something like that, because
Yeah.
it never ends well for those people. It
Well,
never
it's
ends well.
because, I mean, a lot of it has to do with Parkinson's law. So Parkinson's law says that humans will use up whatever's available to us. It's
Mm,
just who we are, right?
yeah.
And it's the same reason that when somebody gets a raise, if they're living paycheck to paycheck, they're like, oh, I need a raise, I need a raise. They get a raise, and then in a few months they're living paycheck to paycheck again,
Right.
because they get lifestyle creep and all these sorts of things. So, we have to, and kind of we have to utilize that psychology to our benefit, and we have to disallow ourselves to spend. So that's why things like profit first work. So profit first is a system where, in business, where money comes in, and before it ever hits your, like, main account, you allocate it out into tax and profit and owner's pay, and then to your operating, so that you're left with only a certain amount in your operating account to use. So you'll only use that instead of using all of it,
Mm,
and so that you always are left with your profit. It's the same reason that 401ks work, right? Because your boss never gives you that money. It goes straight to the 401k company. You didn't even know it existed, so you don't spend it. So we have to play with our psychology a little bit, and and make it so that we can't spend the money. That's why credit cards, everybody runs them up, is because it just whoop 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 whoop, you swipe swipe swipe, and it doesn't even, you don't even feel it.
What is the most common mistake that you encounter with your clients in terms of like finance and money based decision making?
So for me, because I work mainly in construction and
Mm-hmm.
with contractors, the biggest thing I see is not managing their cost of goods sold, so their labor and their materials.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so what happens is they create this estimate, right? And they say, okay, this is going to cost me $1,500 in labor and materials, so I'm going to charge the client $2,500. Okay, so they say this in their head, they make the estimate. The client pays them the 2,500, and during the project they just let their guys or them or whatever just spend, right? So we have this Parkinson's law, so they're just spending like they don't care. And then they end up spending, say $2,200. So then where they thought they were getting $1,000 to pay for their overhead and profit, they only got $300 to pay for their overhead and profit, and that's never a good day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
if we can just take that 1,500 and actually make it a budget and say, "Hey team, you got 1,500 bucks to make this project happen," it will change everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's very simple but very complicated to execute.
Yeah. No,
Like
for
most
sure.
awesome things, they are simple but complicated.
Yeah. Well, accounting is a whole nother animal in terms of, I mean, like I said, finance goes beyond just like a scope of like it's one thing. It's actually many things. Accounting
Yeah.
is one of them. It was probably my least favorite business class I ever took, and
So you actually
unfortunately,
did take an accounting class.
yeah, it was the only. I think I got a C. It was the only C I ever got in college because it was just ridiculously hard. I don't know if I actually passed. Well, I did pass. I guess I technically did pass like two exams, but they
Mhm.
were like low C's, like on like I didn't get above a C on any of my exams because like I just couldn't grasp the details and the rules behind it. That's where
Mhm.
I struggled.
Well, I think that the whole debits and credits things also screws people up because it's
Yeah,
really
and that's why accounting I think is one of the hardest things you could possibly get into. I don't know what it's like in a corporate structure, but from a school structure, I understand why accounting majors were always stressed out because there was no way. Um,
you should have been in the science department.
I know clearly, but like you understand like a lot of accounting terms.
Uh-huh.
Did you did you study that on your own, or did you just like how
Oh,
did you
yeah.
learn those terms? Like through experience or what?
No, through so many books.
Books. Okay.
So I have read more books than one could imagine on all things like small business, finance, and tax. Like there was this book that was like this thick, and I mean, like, you know, 10,000 pages kind of thick, about small business tax law. And I actually read the whole thing for fun
Wow.
because I'm a weirdo like that. I love stuff like that. I love to read. I don't like what I call wasted time. So like if I'm in the car, I'm usually listening to a book. When I'm doing my hair and makeup, I'm listening to a book or a training. Like I'm
Yeah.
always, always, always listening to a book. Jim Collins, my favorite author. If you haven't read everything by Jim Collins, just go get Great by Choice. It's like the best book I've ever read. It's my favorite forever. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah. One
What
day I
would
will
you?
get to meet him. It will
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. Got to manifest that. That's awesome.
It's going to
What would what would you recommend for people that want to get into like just upgrading their financial status or their financial literacy? What would you recommend? Like just like what is point A? Where's the starting point for that?
The first thing is to actually write down all of your bills and when they're due. Either, and this can be personal or business or both. So, one of the things I use with my clients is a weekly cash flow document where it literally lists all the things they pay and then
Mm-hmm.
has them in the weeks that they're due. So then we know exactly how much cash we need in the bank at the beginning of that week to pay all the bills.
Mm-hmm.
It's a magic document. It's real. I mean, it takes a little bit to like set up, but once you have it set up, it's pretty easy because you just put in how much money you have, how much money's coming in, and
Mm-hmm.
then it does the math for you and says, "Oh, yes, this is a black week, you're good," or "Oh, Nelly, you can't pay your bills this week," and then we have to flow things around, and then we can once we start using it, we can see our run rate and we can see our runway. How long until we are in a bad spot. Because like I
Okay.
remember when COVID happened, the beauty of COVID, so in California, construction was not essential. So my best friend, she owned a company there. She got shut down. And here in Colorado, I did not know. We were in the middle of a really big project, and every day I did not know if I was going to get shut down or not. And so I was doing my runway every single day. I was like, okay, we've done this much work today in this big project. If we can get the big project done, then I can bill out this, and then I can have this much. If I have to pay my employees, I have this many months in of runway, and if I don't have to pay my employees, I have this many months of runway. Like I every single day was redoing the math. We ended up not getting shut down, but had we gotten shut down, I would have had between 6 and 9 months of money in the bank to survive that. And I knew it every single day. So I was totally freaked out, but I didn't have to be as freaked out.
That is crazy. I didn't realize it wasn't essential. I think it was essential here in Missouri. Most things were actually essential here in Missouri, if I remember correctly. But
They were like, everything is essential.
pretty much, yeah. Anything blue collar in Missouri was definitely essential.
No, yeah, my friend, she got shut down for like 3 months, and like one of our biggest, so we did floors. One of our big suppliers was getting shut down. Like it was very random who was shut down, who was still working. I mean, it was crazy times, and but I learned a lot from that time on how to really be able to go to sleep at night knowing that I could pay all my employees and that everything was going to be okay.
hmm No, that is a good feeling, and I think getting through that time, I think it really tested a lot of people, and it just made a lot of people more adaptable to situations in terms
Hmm.
of financial reasons. And I just think, like, you just got to adapt to survive, and eventually everything will come together and be put in place. So yeah, I think people just need the right mindset with it. And yeah, so what do you, I guess, like, what do you recommend for people that maybe they want to start a business, and maybe they got a degree in science and they want to go into something completely different? uh, what would you say for those people right now that aren't sure what they want to do after getting a degree, and maybe they want to flip flop to something
Mm,
else?
don't be afraid to flip flop, but just try things, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, I've done a lot of different things. Like I was in food service and I was a bartender in college, and then I went into sales, and then I went into construction, and now I'm, a consultant, and so there's a million different ways. But I would say, try it out. Like do it as a side gig, right? I did my consulting thing as a side gig for a few years before going full time. I think so many people like they want to just like make the jump. They want to just be a switch that's flipped. And that's just not realistic in
Mm,
the sense that like you can't just stop your job and then make full-time income overnight with a business. You just can't.
right.
Um
I'm going through that right now, actually. Like,
yeah,
I'm going
it's
through that
very
transition.
difficult, right?
I mean, the energy is, I get banged up every week because I, try to live an active lifestyle too.
Yeah.
So yeah, the energy waking up is sometimes really really hard, and
Mhm.
I gotta slap myself with a little coffee and get myself going, and that it's just a phase in life, and I know that at some point in time I won't have 40 hours a week dedicated to one thing, so like, but I'll probably look on that time when I'm there, I'll probably be like, man, I kind of missed like some days, like going as hard as I can, for those 12 hours, in a day that I had while still working out, and also setting aside time to read or do something
Mhm.
beneficial for my self-help. I honestly think, like, yeah, you're right, just don't jump off the ledge necessarily, but um I mean, you have to make sacrifices, and you have to sacrifice the things that aren't as fun in terms of, you can still have a social life, don't get me wrong, but you do have to sacrifice some social aspects of your life to become, where you want to get to. Obviously, you would know because, like, you were living on food stamps at one point. So obviously, I'm sure your social aspect of your life did, change because you're trying to figure out where your next step was going to be and how to navigate your future in that regard. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
just think that, yeah, life comes and goes in phases, and
Mm.
you just got to be gentle with yourself, while also kind of going pretty hard with your work ethic. So yeah, it's
Well,
all
yeah, and I
about
mean,
balance.
I had kids, and
Yeah.
when I left my abusive relationship, I also left a pretty I left we were in his religion, and it's a very strict religion. So I not only left him, but I had to leave every single human in the state of Colorado that I knew. They don't they I'm shunned now. They don't they act like I'm dead.
Right.
So um so yeah, the social aspect of my life did change
No, for
completely.
sure.
I
For
was
sure.
shunned. I
No,
was so
yeah.
shunned. I'm fine with that now. It was difficult at the time. But you know what? I have a lot of time to work out, and so I was much leaner than I am now because I
Same,
worked
girl,
out a
same.
lot. I did 75 hard. I looked amazing, and now I'm
Oh,
like
I did
my
that
body.
too. Yeah,
I'm like
yeah.
I'm like, well, how did I have time for that? And now I'm like, oh yeah, because things were changing, and so I just worked out, and because I was like so
Yeah.
frustrated with everything, I was like, let's just work out.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I need more frustration right now so I can work
No,
out.
no, I mean, like I said, phases in life. So, I mean,
Yeah.
someday, I'm sure at some point in time, I'll have like an extra, hour or two to work out every day. But I don't have that now. I got to get it in like within like a 45 to like hour 30 at most, and, I got to make use of that time.
Mhm.
Um, and make use of, like, okay, I'm not going to be as like lean as I was, working out twice a day, doing 75 hard,
Oh
and those
man,
sorts of
yeah, I look
things.
great.
And that's okay. Like, it because perception of like what your body looks like is all society standard. It's not even like
Yeah. But
it's
I
it's
have a wedding in a few months, and I have a pageant. I'm going to be on an international stage in like 3 weeks.
Oh, I
And if
forgot. Yeah, so you do
anyone,
pageants,
if
right?
only I had that 75 hard body right now. I do, yeah. So I'm currently International Ms. Rocky Mountain, and so I'm participating from when we are recording this. I'm participating in the International Ms. pageant in a few weeks in Orlando, Florida. Yeah, I do pageants just to show women around the world that wherever they are is just a starting point, and to really take a stand for the that you can be a businesswoman and a mom and a great partner and a great family member, and you can also be a beauty queen and have fun times, and really to highlight my platform of the CEO Money School, and helping women to own their financial health and to get out of domestic violence, and to do that through financial freedom.
Wow. Yeah, I almost missed the mark on the pageants, and I'm glad we circled around to
Yeah,
to
I made
that.
sure to get it in there. It's good.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. I didn't realize you were, yeah, actively competing like
Oh
in a
yeah,
in a
I got the
few
big
weeks.
crowns.
Yeah. That's awesome. So it's Miss Colorado Rocky is what you
So
are?
Ms. Rocky Mountain. So
Ms.
I'm
Rocky
representing the
Mountain.
Rocky Mountain region. Um, yeah. And I have these phenomenal. So we have to do a regional costume, and so I have these phenomenal gold wings
That's
that
amazing.
hopefully send out good vibes for me.
Of
They were
course.
like stuck in Poland for 2 weeks, and now they finally moved, and it said that they're in New York. So I'm hoping. I'm cautiously optimistic they're gonna make it.
There you go. That's awesome. So you have to bring all this stuff like yourself to the
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Your whole wardrobe, all the things. And there's so
Do you have a
much to it.
team?
Oh, I have a pageant coach and she's amazing. I couldn't do this without her. Are you
That
kidding
is
me? No
so
way.
crazy.
Yeah.
How did you find a
Yeah.
pageant coach?
Well, I mean through other pageant people.
Okay. Okay. How long you been doing pageants?
So I did pageants when I was a teen,
Okay,
and
so
then
you've
I
been doing
got
it for a long time.
yeah, and then when I was kind of finding myself, so a few years before my divorce, I already knew I wanted to get one. And so I was kind of finding myself, and I had decided to go back into pageantry, and my ex wouldn't let me. Like he said that he said a whole bunch of things about how pageants weren't for married women. But anyways,
Ugh,
yeah,
loser
he's a funny.
mindset.
Yeah. So right after I finally was like, no moss to this life, I went straight back into pageantry. So it's
Yeah.
been what 3.5 years now,
Okay.
almost 4 years, that I've been doing pageants again, and I love it. It's my hobby. It's so fun, and I get to meet amazing women who from all around the world who are doing amazing things within their communities, and I get to really highlight all the things I want to do. Eventually, I want to have my own charity to help women get great lawyers
Hmm.
that can't afford them in domestic violence situations. So just being able to highlight all those things, it's just a lot of fun, and why not, right? And then you get to have where else can you wear giant gold wings? Come on.
Yeah. Besides like Halloween
Yeah.
or maybe Christmas, yeah,
Okay,
not
now
many
I'm
moments.
envisioning how you make this work for Christmas. I mean, because well, they're
I guess
fairy wings.
if
They're
you.
not angel wings.
Okay, okay. Yeah, probably not Christmas. Probably just Halloween then. Probably just
Okay,
Halloween.
yeah.
No,
Those
that's
are the
so.
pageants for.
That
Yeah.
no, that's really cool, and it's cool
Mhm.
that you're multifaceted like that. And I think it just goes to show that it's important to do stuff like outside of like what your job is or like your
Oh yeah.
business even. I know you can eat, sleep, and breathe your business, but we as humans, I think, crave community, and we also crave doing multiple things. So it's cool that you found that community, and then you also found that ability to express yourself, which yeah, you just have to find that balance, and you can do it all. Especially, I like the point that you made about being a good partner and a good mom. Um, I think being able to also do those things and to have the right partner support you is crucial.
Oh
I think having a part. I mean, I'm a single guy, so I don't really know the feeling, but I know that from looking and spectating other people that having the right partner really can make or break your success. Like it really can,
Oh,
because
100.
like
Mhm.
they're either going to add stress to your life and then it's going to fuck up your business or fuck up whatever, or they're going to enhance your life by not adding stress or adding support to you, and then
Yeah.
that's when you can like scale even further or take off even further, because they can outsource some things for you in your day to day
Oh, yeah.
that are important. So that's awesome. I'm glad that you have everything in place to just go do your thing. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Well, I've had the opposite, right? And
Yeah,
I
you've
can tell
you've
you
gone through the trenches.
oh, yeah. The good partner thing is for real. Like, my fiance is amazing, and, like, he was the one who actually originally encouraged me to go full-time into consulting. So I've only been doing full-time consulting for about 3 years, and I was kind of at a crossroads because I had just exited, in the divorce, like, it was finally finalized, and I just
Hmm.
exited that company, and, I had another company that through some crazy stuff I had exited that one too. And so I was kind of like in this place of like, what do I do with my life? And he was like, yeah, he's like, why don't you just do the fractional CFO thing full time is what you love. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. He's like, just try it. You have a couple months saved up. Just do it. And if it doesn't work out, you can always get a job. But why not
True.
try? And so obviously it worked out because 3 years later we're doing well, and now we're starting other companies, and we just launched our Blue Collar Wealth Club podcast, and all these different things, and really he's been so encouraging, and now he's finding himself, and I'm encouraging him in that, and we're really finding all these things together, and it's just been amazing, and I'm so excited for our wedding next year, and then all the things we have to come, with a good
Hmm.
partner. The sky's the limit, so it's definitely worth the wait.
Yeah. And it's also worth getting into a relationship. So did you get into a relationship with him when you were still building, or were you pretty like set with your
Oh,
business?
I had nothing when we met. No, when we met was I was in the middle of my very nasty divorce.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but that's still great that like you didn't have to be put all the way together for him, and he probably
No.
wasn't put all the way together for you. And
Nope.
that's a beautiful thing. I think people don't understand, and I don't mean to go on the dating tangent. That's not the point of this episode, but I think people need to understand that your person may not be fully put together, but if you can recognize the potential and the good heart in the person,
Mhm.
that's what matters. The
Yeah.
other pieces will come because if he's a fully motivated guy or she's a fully motivated woman, like all it takes is like maybe just like the right push or just like the right thing to say or do for that person, and they'll take off, and yeah, we're not always going to be fully put together for our partners, and our partners aren't going to be fully put together for us. But that's the beautiful thing is like you can work together and figure that out as you go, because that's
Yeah.
just life. Like you're just part of it.
Well,
Like, you just figure it out when you go.
yeah, I mean, and honestly, I don't think you're ever fully put together. Like you're always a
That's true.
new, greater version of you, right? And I
One
think
hundred
that
percent.
we saw in each other there were certain things that we wanted in another human, and we saw that in each other, and then the other stuff was just it's a work in progress, and together we really help each other to find what's next and to go to that next level, and we fully support one another, and um in whatever season we're in, and now we've been together over 3 years, and
Hmm.
he's just it's and we communicate. I would say communication is literally number one. If you find someone you can't communicate with, then it's over from the get.
Hmm.
Just don't.
Right.
We always look at ourselves like, okay, if we're frustrated or whatever, we say, okay, is this a me thing or is this a them thing? And I would
Hmm.
say 90% of the time it's usually a me thing. Like
Hmm.
on my side, when I'm like, and then I'm like, no, it's just that I'm just being a brat today. Okay, I need to check
Yeah.
myself. But he
No,
does
it's
that
true.
too. We check ourselves first. Then if we're like, this is something we need to discuss, then we like discuss
Yeah.
it like adults.
Of course. Yeah, that's the thing. We're adults, or at least we should be, right?
We don't have to have temper tantrums. We don't have to fight. We like very. We never fight.
That's
Ever.
good. That's good.
No, we
Um,
we chat. We talk.
yeah. Yeah, just having a mature conversation.
Yeah.
But that no,
Mhm.
that's beautiful. It's good to have your person in this time of your life to
Yeah.
go watch you win, and then obviously with your kids too. That's another big focal point in your life too, and kids can teach you so much. I obviously don't know what that's like, but just spectating, it is cool to see for sure.
Yeah. And he loves football too, so we have season tickets. So we go to all our
Right, you
games
got the Denver,
together.
you got the Broncos.
Yes.
We love the Broncos. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I really got on this end. Did you have any last reflecting moments for the audience today?
I mean, I'm just gonna go back to the thing I've said like probably 3 times this episode. Just write down your vision. Like have a moment with yourself to go, where do I want to be? And especially if you're looking for a partner, the biggest thing, and my fiance and I did this independently of one another way before we ever met. We said to ourselves, okay, what do we really want in a partner? And then we said, okay, now we know what we want in a partner. What does that person want? What would
Hmm.
attract them? How do we become that person that our person wants? And I
Hmm.
think that's why, we could see that work in progress with each other. Like we knew, yeah, maybe we hadn't arrived and we were still, going through a lot, but that we were trying to get there. We were trying to heal. We were trying to become the one that our dream person would want.
Hmm. Right on. Um, Plug your socials
Okay.
real quick.
Okay, so I am your pocket CFO on all the things. And then
All
my
the things.
podcast is Blue Collar Wealth Club.
Blue Collar Wealth Club. What was so? Can you say the handle one more time?
Your pocket CFO.
Your Pocket CFO.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm real small. So you can't tell right now if this is on video, but I'm real tiny. I'm like 5'1". And so it was like a joke because I was like, oh, I can fit in your pocket. And then I was like, oh, I'm like, Siri. It's like, hey, Siri. It's like, hey, Sheena, I got a question. So I'm in your
Yeah,
pocket. So I'm
I'm
your
in your
pocket
pocket.
CFO.
Your Pocket CFO. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, make sure you give her a follow, listen to her podcast, get some gems. And yeah, thank you for your time, Sheena. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks for having me. It's been great.